Congressman and Republican gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin releasing a new campaign ad blasting Governor Kathy Hochul for crimes in the Empire State. Let's take a watch.
There's no question that the spear of crime is real. Then, without warning, he turns violent and continues.
You're looking at actual violent crimes caught on camera in Kathy Hochul's New York. And it's getting much worse. On Kathy Hochul's watch. On November 8th, vote like your life depends on it.
Yes, this comes as New York City police are still on the search for a man who allegedly stabbed a fellow subway passenger during the middle of the day Brooklyn subway ride this week. Joining me right now is New York Congressman Lee Zeldin. Congressman, it's great to see you. Thanks very much for being here this morning. And I'm really glad that you're focused on crime being the top issue, because voters are just so frustrated. They've had it with what's happening in New York. How did things get so bad?
You have pro-criminal laws that have been passed. You see cashless bail. The implementation of that came a little over 2 years ago, and the consequences have been pretty bad across the state. The governor says that she needs more data in order to change it. You have to elect her to find out what her position on changing it further might be in January. I say let's repeal it. You even have New York City Mayor Eric Adams saying let's have a special session of the state legislature to overhaul cashless bail, give judges discretion to weigh dangerousness. I agree with that call. He might be a Democrat. I might be a Republican. There have been other laws, too, that have been changed where you have people released early from prison who should remain behind bars. That's called less is more. They've changed. There was something called raise the age with some of these 16 and 17-year-olds who are ending up in the criminal justice system, and now that's added additional violence on the streets. The list goes on with pro-criminal laws that are passed. And then you have district attorneys like Alvin Bragg refusing to enforce the law. And you even have some lax judges. The Goldman Sachs employee who was murdered on a subway in Staten Island was released by a lax Brooklyn judge where the prosecutor was asking for bail. It's all added up, and it's resulted in an eroded situation in our streets, and our law enforcement isn't being backed up. And people who used to, on a beautiful night in Manhattan, they'd want to walk 10, 15 blocks and enjoy life in the city. Instead, if they're 2 blocks away from their home, will call an Uber because they don't feel safe.
You're absolutely right. And that's how I felt the other day walking around. I didn't want to go too far from my home because I was afraid. I mean, it's absolutely insanity. Congressman, we've got these illegal migrant buses that are arriving today. 2 buses arrived at Vice President Kamala Harris's residency this morning. And we know that this is just a couple of the buses that have been coming from Texas. Texas is dealing with 7,000 illegal migrants a day. Your thoughts on connecting these illegal migrants who are jumping the line in front of those people who have done it the legal way to become citizens of America? Is there any connection to crime here?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we're reading about cases. I was just talking about cashless bail. There were 2 Mexican cartel drug smugglers who were busted in Manhattan in July with $1.2 million worth of crystal meth. Instantly released that day, by the way, on cashless bail. But we've seen crimes with sex trafficking, drug trafficking, labor trafficking. They commit additional offenses. They're not here in the country legally. We have states and cities incentivizing and rewarding illegal entry. We see that inside of New York State. These border cities, these border states are desperate. They don't know what else to do. So when you hear a complaint coming out from some city mayors somewhere that they're having a bad day, well, every single day you have more people coming across illegally, and they're looking to the Biden administration for leadership, saying demanding, as they should, secure this border, support our Customs and Border Patrol agents, end catch and release, enforce the Remain in Mexico policy, stop incentivizing and rewarding illegal entry. So every time we see one of these buses arrive or planes arrive and some blue state governor or blue state mayor is complaining, think about what it's like to be on the border. These folks are desperate, and we really need the Biden administration to lead, and that's not what we're getting right now.
Yeah, no, and Kathy Hochul, as you just said a minute ago, said that she's not going to deal with this at all until after the election. So she's expecting people to vote for her, and then she's going to deal with all of this after the election. She doesn't want to even look at cashless bail before the election. That is one reason Democrats are abandoning her and going to you. Instead, you've got one Democrat recently endorsing your campaign instead of her, City Councilman Robert Holden, saying that New York is in mayhem under Hochul. This as new polls show that Hochul's lead is now down to just a single digit. Just a month ago, it was over 20 points, Congressman. Your thoughts on your race right now with just, 50 days or so before the election?
We're going to win this race, and we have to win this race. And the support that we're getting just this week coming in from sitting Democrat elected officials, former Democrat elected officials, Democrat community leaders. And now we were on the steps of New York City Hall with many of them announcing their support. Somebody just announced their support last night who is a former president of the New York City Council, former Manhattan Borough president, a former state assemblyman. And I appreciate your coverage of it.
'Cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that